Hey, it's your guy Tyrrell back with the interviews. In today's video, we're going to briefly analyze how Man United's midfield trio overcame Burnley's 4-4-2 system to put the Red Devils at the top of the Premier League table. When we break down the game and we do look at the board, we have Burnley in a 4-4-2 and Man United in a 4-2-3-1. So first, we're going to look at how Burnley looked to disrupt United and then look to a few examples, break them down, and see how Solskjaer's men were able to get into good positions. First, we have Burnley dropping off to two banks of four, and the manner in which they could have approached this game was to high press in United's third by having the strikers stepping out to the center backs, the wider players pushing out to Luke Shaw and Wan-Bissaka, and then having Brownhill and Westwood stepping into the path of Pogba and Matic. That does leave Bruno Fernandes free in that midfield zone, so that would mean that either Tarkowski or me would have to step to the United attacking midfielder and then have the spare center back dealing with Cavani. That would leave Loughton and Peters to step to Rashford and Martial, and that would complete Burnley's high press. If they wanted to drop off a bit deeper, they could have Barnes and Wood sitting in between Matic, Brownhill stepping into the path of Pogba, and then Westwood tracking the movement of Bruno Fernandes and allowing Maguire and Bailly to push forward. And that would ensure that you do have 2v1 against Cavani, and then the wide players sticking to United's fullbacks and their wide threat in Martial and Rashford. If Burnley opted to approach the game in that manner, that would see Bruno Fernandes playing higher up the pitch and likely looking to make runs in beyond the defense or shifting out into the wider areas to get on the ball. And that would see Matic shift either to the left of Maguire or looking to split the center backs to create a 3v2 situation to help United push higher up the pitch. But when we look at a few examples, we're able to see Burnley dealing with United's threat and comfortably shutting them down from creating quality chances in that opening half. For instance, if Barnes looked to push higher towards Bailly, then Brownhill would simply step forward to close down Pogba, and Wood would drop off and stick on Matic. There was a time where Pogba opted to shift to the right of Bailly to get into space away from Barnes and Wood, but what we ended up seeing here was that Brownhill stepped into the path of Matic just in case the ball shifted over to Pogba, and that would allow Barnes to apply pressure. And what often happened in that opening half was Matic would shift to the left of Maguire, and that would see Wood and Barnes hold their position and look to apply pressure to Matic if he did get on the ball, or they would drop off and allow the United center backs to push forward, and then you would see Brownhill stepping into the path of Pogba. And if you look to one final example, you have Matic sitting in between the United center backs and looking to push forward, and Barnes and Wood drop off to ensure that Matic can't have a free passing outlet. And that's when you see Brownhill and Westwood step into the path of Pogba and Brady tuck in narrow to close down Bruno Fernandes, who was in a deeper midfield position. So as you could see, Burnley's shape out of possession ensured that United's double pivot couldn't dictate the tempo of the game, and it disrupted United from creating chances. Out in the wider areas, Rashford struggled in 1v1s against Peters. On their left-hand side, we did see Martial dropping off deeper ahead of Gudmundsson, and that would allow Shaw to bomb forward ahead of Loughton, but for the most part, Burnley were comfortable in that zone. Even when we assess United's best attacking move in that opening half, it stemmed from a transitional attack that saw Bruno Fernandes poke the ball away from Westwood, and it fell into the path of an unmarked Matic in the midfield zone. Matic slid the ball across Westwood, Gudmundsson, and Tarkowski to place Martial in a legitimate goal-scoring position, and that ended up seeing Martial in a 1v1 with Loughton ahead of the Burnley penalty area. However, from this position, Martial ended up rushing his effort and bending it around Loughton but over the net. When you look to the second half and we break down how United were able to get into good areas, it often stemmed from their midfield being able to have time and space on the ball, whether it be in transition or in deeper areas in their own zone, where Burnley were forced to step out of position. And that's where we saw Pogba and Matic in particular finding gaps between Westwood and Brownhill, or the wide players and the central midfielders to find Bruno Fernandes and Martial in pockets of space between the lines. But ultimately, it was Paul Pogba who consistently found gaps between that Burnley midfield to play in Bruno Fernandes in particular, and he played a key role in United claiming all 3 points. Initially, we see Pogba in his own half ahead of the Burnley midfield bank, and you have Bruno Fernandes dropping into a pocket of space between Brady and Westwood, and that sees Westwood attempting to shift across to close down that gap. But that creates another gap for Pogba to split the Burnley midfield duo to find Martial between the lines. When Martial receives the ball ahead of Loughton, Cavani demands the ball ahead of Tarkowski, and you could see Shaw making a run into vacant space in the left channel beyond Goodmanson. Cavani guides a first-time ball across Goodmanson for Shaw in the left channel, and that allowed United to get into a good attacking position. Shortly after that, it was a De Gea throw to Pogba that bypassed Burnley's midfield bank, as we see the Man United midfielder receiving the ball beyond Brady and Brownhill, with Westwood attempting to shift over. Pogba ended up brushing off Brownhill's pressure to break into Burnley's half, and he has Bruno Fernandes and Martial breaking into space ahead of Loughton. Pogba ends up sliding the ball to Bruno Fernandes in a pocket of space ahead of Loughton, and that creates a 2v1 with Martial against the Burnley right back. And when Martial receives the ball in a 1v1 ahead of Loughton in left half space, he has Cavani occupying me, Rashford peeling off Peters at the back post, and Pogba breaking beyond Brownhill into the box, but United failed to create a quality chance from that situation. And in the build-up to Man United's winner, it's Pogba winning an aerial duel over Brownhill to nod the ball into the path of Bruno Fernandes between the lines. Bruno Fernandes receives Pogba's nod down and slides it to an unmarked Rashford in the right channel, but look at Pogba's position when this pass is played, because what happens next is that Rashford is closed down by Peters and McNeil, but they don't apply tight pressure on him, and that's where you see Pogba at the edge of the box demanding the ball. The issue that Burnley encounter here is that one, Peters and McNeil don't block Rashford's pullback, and you have Brownhill and Westwood both sucked into the ball, and none of them are close to Pogba to close him down. Westwood does attempt to close down Pogba desperately, but the United attacking midfielder received enough time and space to side volley Rashford's clip ball off Loughton and beyond Nick Pope. And when we look to one final example, it's Pogba receiving the ball ahead of Barnes' pressure in Burnley's third, with Martial goal side of Goodmanson and Shaw unmarked at the edge of the box in left half space. What we see next is Pogba is pressed by Barnes as he carries the ball towards Brownhill, and you could see Martial running across Goodmanson into the Burnley penalty area. Pogba ends up splitting the Burnley midfield duo for Martial's run across Goodmanson, and the ball bypasses me to place the United attacker in a legitimate goal-scoring position in Burnley's box. However, Tarkowski does well to track Martial's run to make a successful last-ditch tackle to prevent United from doubling their lead. Hi everybody, thanks for watching and subscribe here for your latest tactical analysis and daily commentary on the Interview show. And if that wasn't enough, don't forget you could find more organic, unfiltered soccer/football analysis on the Interviews podcast, the best soccer/football podcast in the world, available on iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Spreaker, and any Android apps on your Android devices.